The XRP price chart is at a critical zone right now, and in this video, I want to show you exactly what levels you absolutely need to be paying attention to, and what's going to happen if XRP breaks through these zones. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you have any good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to start this video off and actually cover something that could potentially be a really big problem for Bitcoin moving forward. Now, I have to be careful about what I talk about here because I don't want another strike on my YouTube channel. It seems like you just get those randomly these days. If you're talking about XRP, you get a random strike. So I have to be careful here. If you're normally someone who listens to these videos, you can take a look at the screen. There's been new reports that this individual on the screen right here, who I'm not going to say, has been linked to Bitcoin's early development. Now, what's so interesting about this is we still don't know who the creator of Bitcoin is, but this story has sent shockwaves through the Bitcoin market. One of the biggest things Bitcoin has tried to hide behind its entire time as an asset is the fact that no one knows who created it. Now, Bitcoiners try to use this as some super bullish thing, like, oh, it means it was created by no one. No one created Bitcoin. But that's absolutely comical. Of course, someone created Bitcoin, just like someone created every digital asset on this planet. Now, for the longest time, Bitcoiners have tried to use this as something that is really bullish for Bitcoin, that we don't know who created it, because it, for them, makes it seem like super decentralized. Because, like I said before, they fall back on, well, if we don't know who created it, it means no one created it. Now, there's two different ways you can look at that. Of course, from the non-logical standpoint, which I believe a lot of them look at it from, saying, well, if we don't know who did it, that means no one did it. That's the illogical way to look at it. But I think as financial institutions come into the space in larger and larger quantity, they're going to start looking at it in the logical way, which is, well, just because we don't know who it is doesn't mean no one created it. And just like the likelihood of it being created by a really good person we all like, there's an equal likelihood that it was created by someone who could be massively problematic for the network. Now, theoretically, right, from just a math and code-based perspective, does it really matter who created it? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, it's a decentralized asset now, and the creator has largely removed themselves. Yes, it matters that they have a whole bunch of Bitcoin, but those kinds of things can be fixed with time. What is a much bigger problem that no one talks about is the fact that some of that stuff doesn't really matter. And psychologically, if someone really bad created Bitcoin, like a terrorist, a nation state, a government agency, those things would be huge, huge problems for investor confidence moving forward. Now, theoretically, should it matter? No, but it would still be a really big deal. A lot of people might choose not to invest in Bitcoin if it had someone who created it who was problematic in society today. And it's just one of those things that I think a lot of people completely overlook. The fact that we don't know who created Bitcoin could be a beneficial thing. It could also mean that there could be something very bad yet to hit the market in terms of who its creator really was. Just something that you have to keep in the back of your mind. Right now, I think the market's actually pricing in the best case scenario for Bitcoin, which was it was created by someone who was really good, someone who's beneficial to society, someone who's accepted by society, and now that person is gone or completely removed themselves. That's what I think the market is pricing in for Bitcoin. But that leaves no room for anything negative, right? Like the person being a decent person, half the population likes him, half doesn't, but he's still alive and active, and he could really do anything he wants with his 1 million Bitcoin. Or the bad scenario, which is it's someone who's actually very problematic, and it leads people to have a lot of concerns about the future of Bitcoin and maybe makes them not want to put their money in it if someone created it they really don't like. So these are all things you have to be aware of, and one of the things you don't face with XRP. One of the things that's not a problem because we know who the founders are. It's been transparent from the start, and I believe it's some of the best founders you could possibly have in the cryptocurrency industry. So it's just important to realize this super, super good thing for Bitcoin might end up not being such a good thing after all. Now, I'm going to move off that before I get another strike, and let's take a quick look at the XRP price chart, because like I said before, it's at a very critical zone. Now, let's first take a look at the XRP market cap chart. What we can see is there's a very, very tight consolidation going on right now. This upper red bar, you can see a clear resistance that XRP is yet to break through. And right now we're falling on this super strong support region that has essentially held us up since the first tariff scare back in April. Now, this support line has been extremely strong, and we're finding support here right now. And I do think XRP is going to continue to find support here. But this is really the zone we need to be watching. XRP absolutely needs to be able to chop back up into the midpoint of this level to really be back in a safe zone and start pushing back to a breakout to the upside. Right now, XRP, where it stands right now at about the 220 level, is really that level that XRP absolutely needs to hold over the next couple of days so that it can push back up into this safe zone. Now, me personally, I think the catalysts are way too strong for XRP not to do this. I personally think XRP will bounce back up and stay within this region. And a chart that I believe leads me to think that is actually the Bitcoin to XRP price chart. Now, while the XRP price chart is slightly trending down, the XRP to Bitcoin price chart is actually trending upwards. Now, what this is XRP's strength against Bitcoin. And what we can see is after XRP went on a massive parabolic rise in the late part of 2024, it's essentially chopped sideways within this band. But this chart is actually turning around. And what this is telling us is that even if Bitcoin decides to continue going down, it doesn't necessarily mean that XRP is going to follow. And in fact, it's very possible that with Bitcoin dropping, XRP could continue this push to the upside because this chart is actually showing a decent amount of strength right now. So this is really good to see. Despite the fact that Bitcoin's got some media problems right now associated with something that we talked about earlier, it looks like the XRP price chart is still pushing to the upside and still looking to potentially make out a breakout against Bitcoin. Now, this is really good to see because typically when XRP sells off the hardest, it's descending against Bitcoin like it did right here and when it did right here. But when Bitcoin is trending down and this chart is actually reversing, it's actually a very bullish sign for XRP and likely leads to the possibility that XRP is going to be able to hold this current price action inside of this consolidation zone and make another run at potentially hitting a breakout. This would be the ultimate bullish scenario to see develop over the next couple days. But another thing we absolutely need to understand is where XRP stands on the longer term time frame. If you take a look at the longer term time frame, which for me is the weekly chart, we can see that this thing still looks absolutely perfect. I like to talk about on this channel all the time, there's no magic lines, and sometimes if you zoom too far into a chart, you kind of lose yourself. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing right now. If you take a look at this long-term chart, we can see that almost nothing has changed. We're just in a noisy region right now where XRP is continuing to bounce around at its previous all-time high. This is not new. We can see that this same exact thing happened in 2017. And I would just pause the screen right here. What you see is almost the same exact scenario that played out from 2014 to 2017 playing out now. You had your first big pump right here in 2014. You had your second big pump here. You had this long region of consolidation before breaking out to this box where it got trapped before the next big breakout. Here you had that same big first pump here, that same big second pump here. You had your long period of consolidation and then a breakout up to this box. So these charts look very, very similar and nothing has deviated so far from saying that this has been invalidated. In fact, a lot of the price action we're seeing right here is actually extremely optimistic that we are seeing the same exact thing as we continue to find support on these previous all-time highs. The fact that XRP is finding support right here is extremely, extremely bullish. It really means that XRP is finding a lot of price support even as it's already past this all-time high. Now, the fun part is when XRP really breaks out of here again and really starts to put in that next parabolic candle that reevaluates XRP into the next big region of accumulation. I believe that's going to lead to a pump that isn't going to really make sense to a lot of people, especially for people simply forecasting random price targets they see all over X. XRP can get extremely vertical as we saw back here. And even if XRP was to do something like this that I'm showing right here on this made up line, this is still less than we saw before, and this is still leading to a $200-something XRP. Now, is XRP going to get there in a single month? Is it going to take a little bit longer? Is it going to move slower? That's really up for everyone to debate and something that personally I don't really care that much about. In my opinion, the important thing is that XRP has shown before that it can make these massive parabolic moves. And everything we've seen in XRP's price history shows that it's continuing to move in these parabolic fashions. I believe it's actually highly likely that XRP is going to put in another one of these moves again. And we're going to see XRP go to a new level that essentially resets the base. Right now, when we're looking at this chart, we're actually looking at a logarithmic chart. If I was to switch off the logarithmic chart and look at the linear chart, what you're going to see is this chart is going to compress massively. So we're going to zoom back in here for a minute and take a look at the linear chart. And I'm really going to show you guys what I mean when I talk about resetting the price. Take a look at this XRP price chart now. This is the same exact chart we're looking at before. And what you can see is this volume right here is pretty much nothing. You can't even make it out on the price chart. Now, I believe what we're going to see is going to be that same thing again. And XRP's next move is going to make this previous price action look like pretty much nothing. So that line we looked at before would look something like this. And you'd have XRP trading at a brand new region that completely washes out this previous price. Personally, that's what I believe is going to play out. And I believe XRP's price has a history of showing us that these things are extremely possible. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. And for now, Mickle out.